I also want to say, I guess I'm making up for lost videos, but now that I'm talking about childhood emotional neglect and shame, I've been really walking it. Like, I've been really talking about it kind of as because it's a fact. It's a fact of life. And I notice a lot of interesting responses to people, or to when I just express the podcast that I'm putting out, is surrounding childhood emotional neglect. And, like, I talk about shame with people and, like, the religion, school system. And someone today, there's a lawyer I met at Bell Park a couple times now, and the first time I saw him, we just talked a bit or whatever. He gave me a business card, and I just saw him again today, and so I gave him my business card. Oh, baby. Hello. Yesterday, he was snuggling on my right side, which is my masculine, and I feel like he was telling me I was taking myself too seriously. Now he's on my left, which is the feminine side, so he's like, yes, speak through your heart, lady. But yeah, I've been talking about shame and childhood emotional neglect, and, like, it is a heavy topic, so I think it's really good to be lighthearted about it, as much as we can be, but also, like, being serious about it. Like, I talk about it, I make jokes on here, but when I tell people about it, I just say it straight up. And then after talking to him, I was just kind of like, the little smug part of me, the little demon on my shoulder that was like, look at you talking about shame to the people who probably need to, like, hear about it. And this is what shadow work does. It's like, that part exists in me, right? And I'm not leading with that part, because if I led with that part, people aren't going to be receptive, right? And, like, my ego, of course, wants to go there. Like, I'm sure some of you guys have seen my posts, and, like, I'm not all love and light, right? But there is a part of me that's kind of like, I think this is how the feminine, I think this is how talking about things factually, from, like, this is what's happening in the world, I think that's how we could reach people. I mean, I obviously want to reach people who kind of be a voice for the voiceless. And you know what? It's okay for people to be uncomfortable by this. Like, the people who are uncomfortable by this and don't want you to speak about it, like, that's okay. And I thought it was funny, because I'm like, people just ask what you do for a living, right? And what you're doing with your life. And here I am talking about, well, actually, since you're asking, like, they asked me, this is what I'm doing. It's like an opening where I'm not forcing, I'm just being honest about this is what is in my world. And, it's confronting for a lot of people. I do find there's people who have an image to maintain. They kind of joke about it, or, like, there's, like, an off. You can tell they do not want to talk about it. And that's okay. And it's kind of like, yeah, I just feel like if you're doing good in the world, if you're giving voice to something, especially if it really touches your heart, and, like, it's confronting, I think there's a really gentle, lighthearted way to be about that, and to also acknowledge, like, our own shadow in it, like, or the part of us that's, like, pride, like, ha ha ha, they get to, like, see what this feels like, but not leading from that. Like, it's okay that exists. Because I think when we soften around it, and we just, like, there's a softening, and also factually, this is what's happening in the world, it makes it a lot harder for people to fight it, Like, especially not necessarily perpetrators here, but like especially someone who, you know, maybe they're in the closet about their own upbringing, or maybe, you know, someone who enables, or someone who's like it's just confronting because maybe they haven't confronted that part of themselves yet, or their own, you know, it's confronting because it sheds light on something, and it's confronting because there's a softening, it's not a pushing. And trust me, I have that in me. Holy man, I have that pushing in me. I really do. And this is the importance of really taking time to ourselves and sitting with ourselves. Like, I have to check myself every day, because I don't know if that I think when we set ourselves up for the day, where we soften and we hold space for our own shit and our own shadow, it helps us become more aware of it in the moment. Because, like, I just had a good cry at Bell Park, and then I interacted with somebody who I felt like was one of those people who were like, you know, a bit of an image to maintain, let's say. And if I'm not aware, and I'm coming from my ego, and I'm coming from like, let me show you, it's not going to reach the people. And like, ideally, people who do have an image to maintain, because I do think some people can change, of course, even if they've been abusive in the past. I think there are places where people can soften in their defensive mechanisms, because I speak about myself here. Like, I have the capacity to be abusive. I have the capacity to overreact, to respond negatively to things. And so the idea is that people who need to see this, it does become receptive to them. And like, you know, am I going to reach everybody? Fuck no. I had somebody comment on one of my YouTube shorts, like, nobody gives a fuck. I was just like, love you too, buddy. 'Cause it doesn't matter. It's not about me. I'm doing this, I'm talking about this because I mean, I feel like it's just my path. But I do want it to be, like, I think if we're going to do things for good of humanity, if we're going to create change, we have to hold space for our anger. And also, why would we not want the message to be receptive to more people? Like, is that not, you know, is that not the point? Like, obviously there's a time and place for anger, and like, if somebody's abusing somebody in front of you, of course you're gonna act like a freaking psycho to tell them to go fuck off. But like, there's a time and place. And if we're gonna have people receive our message, we have to walk from a grounded space and speak through our heart. It's like when animals are around, you know, they're receptive to us when we're calm, when we're grounded. I've been bitchy and miserable, and like have had days where like Tyler and I have been in an argument and I've just been angry. And I've had dogs bark at me like no tomorrow the next day, and I'm just like, yep, I needed to check myself. And hi, Stephanie. This is making me talk more. Knowing somebody's actually watching this, it kind of helps. Yeah. I was gonna say something. Yeah, there's so much finger pointing. There's so much finger pointing. I was gonna say, I actually, at Bell Park today, after my good cry and after talking to that man who I felt was like the image guy, had an image to maintain, I walked this other path. It was like, oh, my intuition's telling me to go here. And so I see these old ladies feeding chickadees. And we got to talking a little bit, so I shared about my podcast. And it was two grandmas, like one's a grandma, one's a great grandma. And I just said, I'm like, you know, I want to bring elderly, younger people from all generations to talk together to create change. And like, you know, I expressed, I'm like, we all know what the problems are, but what can we do? So I'm like, if you want to check out my page. And so they gave me bird seeds to feed the chickadees. And then she's like, that's your ancestors landing on you, right? And I was just like, oh, people who get it, it's so nice. It's so nice to have those reminders, because I feel like I'm the person reminding people of these things. So when I have it reflected back on days that I need it, I was just like, thank you. And, I saw these Jehovah Witnesses at Bell Park, and I was like, okay, if I really want to challenge myself, if I really want to say that I'm going to unite people, or I'm going to try and bring people together, or my whole shtick, I'm like, I have resistance to people who are super religious. So I went to talk to them. We had a nice conversation. I stopped doing lives. Aww. This is why I can't read comments when I do this, because I just want to cry when people are... Like, I talked to the Jehovah Witnesses, and I just said, I'm like, do you guys know of churches where people, like, don't shame people? It wasn't the best starting line, but I just said, I'm like, like, I think we all need to talk, because there's, like, obviously humanity, anybody who's not aware that humanity's losing it, right? But we just had a nice conversation for, like, half an hour. And I gave them my business card. They gave me theirs. And, like, there's parts that, like, we can agree with. And I said, I'm like, we don't need to agree on everything. And, like, there's birds flying all over the place. Pigeons were just flying in ways that, like when you pay attention to nature, nature tells you. And these are the things that many of us have been told we're too sensitive, we're crazy, right? But, like, I don't think the answer is not talking to people. It's okay to be confronted, I think even some religious people, at least from our conversation, I'm like, I think there's a softening in many places. Even if we don't agree and, like, they think Jesus is coming to save us, which is a little bit, in my opinion, it's not the full picture. But life, God, goddess, intuition, spirit, it wants us to connect with the goodness in each other. And, like, I know I'm talking about this a lot. I'm also a huge hermit right now. And since talking about childhood emotional neglect, I've had all the shit come up. All the, like, I'm not good enough. All the nobody cares. Pushing myself away from people who probably are good for me. And that's something I'm unlearning. The sister wound, and we talked, and I shared this with them. I was like, I feel like religion has shamed us. And I was like, it's not just religion, it's the school system, and it's seeped into the families. And, I talked about German New Medicine and how, like, because he was talking about trauma and how he didn't remember his first 8 years of his upbringing, and he was raised Catholic. I don't need to be like, that's interesting. I'm thinking it, but and now Jehovah's Witness, and, like, but everybody's on their path, and, like, everybody's on their path. Like, I went to visit my uncle who's sick right now. Yeah, exactly. I went to go visit my uncle in or not at the hospital. He's gonna be going there, I'm sure, soon, but, but super focused on the curling, the Olympics, and, just not present. And I had a conversation with somebody recently, and she reminded me, she's like, I have to plug in my phone. She's like, you have to remember, a lot of people can only hear every fourth or fifth word that we're saying. That's trauma. That is trauma. That's a trauma response. And, like, the part of me that gets upset and, like, doesn't feel seen, doesn't feel acknowledged by my family, And I trust me, I get defensive. I get real defensive with my family. I'll be the first to admit it, that protective, specifically with my family, because I didn't feel seen by them, right? And that's something I'm unlearning. So when I talk about this, I'm also going to be talking about my own shadows and my own protective mechanisms, because I think that's important. And I think that, like, that for me feels like being in integrity. And it, at least when I've seen other people talk about their shit, it softens me. So uncle. And then, like, when I went to go say bye to him, like, he's got some heart problems, and I touched him here. And, like, throughout the visit, I'm like, how are you feeling? Oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this. I was like, I asked how you're feeling. How are you feeling? Well, it didn't take long for him to start tearing up, you know? And, you know, this was around the time the Epstein list came out. So my ego before going there, I was like, we don't need to talk about pedophiles. We don't need to talk about pedophiles. As much as I want to, as much as I'm pissed off that my whole family still doesn't fucking see it. So when I left, I just thought to myself, I'm like, my grief is that I'm not feeling seen and heard by my family. A lot of us are grieving that people are not going to wake up. And I don't think we've reckoned with that many are not going to wake up. They're not going to wake up. Some will. There's still people who will. But many will not. And the most loving thing we can do. I'm totally PMSing. The most loving thing we can do is love people where they're at. It doesn't mean we spend time with them a lot. It doesn't mean we give our life force away to them. And it's not easy. But we love them where they're at. And like, the world will tell you, hate all the narcissists. And I'm not saying, again, to spend time with people who bring you down. We need to tell people to fuck off sometimes, right? If they're harming us. And this is discernment, like time and place. But like, the world's going like this consistently lately. And I don't know, I don't think it's helping anybody. It's not helping. I was gonna say something else, but I feel like that's gone again. It's like, serve me, woman. Serve me, woman. Man, I was gonna say something, but it's gone. Anyway, I don't promise on my podcast to not cry. I feel like I've just accepted that I'm that person, you know? I cry easily. Not because I'm seeking attention or because I'm like, God, feel bad for me. I'm just fucking alive and I'm human. But yeah, we're okay. We're going through a reckoning because some people are not going to wake up, and like, loving them where they're at is the best thing we can do for them and for ourselves. And it actually softens and opens up the idea that they might wake up and see something, see a bit of a nudge. Oh, this is what I was going to say. Our nervous system. When we're in a trauma response, we hold on. Our protective mechanisms, our defensive mechanisms. Like, if you're really sensitive, you're crying, you know, your dad or mom were not allowed to cry as children. Well, guess what? Wholly triggering for mom and dad because they were losers. You know, maybe their parents did the cry out method. A lot of our grandparents, great-grandparents did not hold their babies. Or they held their babies, but they were growing up in the Great Depression. So that survival gets passed down to the baby. And this is not about making excuses. This is just knowing where, like, to make change, we have to look at history. We have to look at where we're, like, to look at where we're at. Where have we been? Where are we at? And where are we going? Because the world will tell you, fuck all the nurses, fuck all the, like... And you know what? I agree. Fuck them. They suck. They suck the living daylights out of you. And when do we start looking at ourselves and the parts we've played? And when do we start, teaching our daughters to love the shit out of themselves, teach our sons to respect women and love themselves, teach women to respect men too. But when do we walk this path in our families, with each other? You know? And I really don't like the term narcissist anymore because it's so overused. Like, there's definitely some out there. And there's people who've seen PTSD, like myself, who have really shitty coping mechanisms, or who've developed shitty coping mechanisms and have become very reactive. When you're told to stuff feelings down your whole entire life, what is that, like, what do we expect that's going to do to people? And now, religion, new age, like, it's this, the minute you start talking about feelings, people stuff it down. They, like, call you a victim the moment you bring feelings to the conversation. That's shame. That's internalized shame. Some of it's internalized shame. Some of it, they are staying comfortable with where they're at, and they don't want to get uncomfortable. That's, like, people have an image to maintain, and they want to hold it. And this isn't to say some people can't be softened, like I'm trying to say. And also, it's like, be discerning, have boundaries, tell people to fuck off if they're harming somebody. I don't know what the message is. It's a big conversation, and it's not direct. Like, all the black and white thinking is not helping us, because you don't want to give your life force away to people, but also where can we be more gracious, especially with what we're trying to bring out into the world? Like, if we're going out in the world trying to defend our cause and be like, listen to me talk about childhood emotional neglect, no one's going to listen. Like, I've recently blocked people who were at that place, because, like, and don't get me wrong, I've been in fight mode quite a bit, but when you're coming online and you're constantly in fight mode, that's dysregulating, and it's shaming people. And, like, I'm guilty. During this conversation, I'm like, yeah, I've gone off a bit, but, like, I don't know. Anyway. If you ever want to come on my podcast, Stephanie, feel free. I think that's enough for today. I'm just rambling now.